Let's talk about how to make a plan to get bigger, faster, and stronger as an athlete. All right, so if you're new here, I'm Coach Dan Blewett. I'm a former pro baseball player. I used to own a travel organization and a baseball, softball academy. So we've had this conversation that we're about to have a number of times with parents when they're asking, hey, my son or my daughter, they need to get bigger and stronger. They want to play in college or they want to make the varsity team. What should we be doing? Besides saying, oh, just eat more, or maybe they should consider supplementing with whey protein or whatever. Really, there's a bigger conversation, and that's what we want to have today. So parents, this is more for you about how you can support your kids if their goals are to get bigger, faster, and stronger. So number one, you need to sit down together and make a plan. And this is a great time to use sports as another springboard for a lifelong lesson that you want your kids to learn, which is how to make and plan for healthy eating. Being able to cook, being able to plan a meal, having a general understanding of the general macronutrients, protein, carbs, fat, how all those play together, and what healthy food choices look like. So if your kid needs to gain weight and get bigger and faster and stronger for their sport, this is a good time to say, okay, well, if these are your goals, let's sit down and make a plan. Because if you're here today at 135 pounds and you want to be 175 pounds for your recruiting year in a couple years, or when you're going to try out for the varsity team, how can we put the stepping stones together to get you to that goal, to put on 30 pounds in a couple years, which is realistic when kids are going through puberty. If you're trying to put on 10, 20 pounds in one off season, that's not going to be realistic unless you're like 16 years old and you're actively growing and going through puberty at that moment. But parents, this is a good time to say, this is how things are done. This is how we can do this, and to dive into this sort of planning phase with them. And so a major don't here is don't just leave this to them to pack their own lunches, to make their own choices and expect them to make good ones. Because what they're going to do at school is they're just going to grab the chips and whatever, the pizza or whatever it is, and they're just going to go back to doing what they naturally do because they don't know anything about food. And I went through this when I was a kid. So until they're in a spot where they get educated, and you guys can watch some YouTube videos together, learn about food, learn about ways to, build your physique, and how much protein do you need in a day? What are some good foods to pack for lunches that are going to support, muscle gain after a workout? When should you have a protein shake if you decide you want to take a supplement? What should you have for breakfast to support, energy throughout the day and to have your workout and your practice? All that stuff. Put this stuff together in a plan, but don't just leave it to your kid and say, hey, you got to start eating more. You got to start eating more. Make it as regimented as you can so they can say, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to follow it to a T. My next big do here is do this with them. A lot of parents, and I'm sure I'm talking to some here right now, who don't have great eating habits, who do need to get healthier or to improve your body composition, whatever it is. So if your kid is in that same boat, this is a great time to do this together and be on that same journey of making better eating habits. It always comes down to planning. People make bad choices when they're hungry. They make bad choices when they haven't eaten all day, when they haven't packed any food. But when you can always go home and cook a meal, or you always have healthy food within arm's reach, it's way easier to make the choices that you want to make rather than succumbing to, all right, I've been on the road for 8 hours, didn't pack anything, so I'm just going to stop at Burger King and that's going to be my dinner. If you don't want your kids to make similar choices, then dive in there with them, show them how it's done, and be on this journey together. That's a really good way to spend quality time with your kid and make healthy choices for both of you, while also showing that, hey, this is the way this is done, and adults are accountable to their bodies also. And another big don't here is don't make this a gender issue, or don't make this a role issue. This should be a whole family issue. So if, say, your son needs to up his calories significantly, where he basically needs to pack a second school lunch, don't make that fall to only the person who's already packing his lunch or packing her lunch. Because now it's just another thing on their plate. Make sure your kid has a lot of responsibility and skin in the game here. It's like, hey, you're going to have to pack your second lunch, or you're going to have to help mom or help dad, pack both of your lunches, or lay out what do you want in your lunch. Do some planning. They need to be involved in the planning process because, again, this is a good opportunity for them to learn what food prep looks like, because they will have to do this as adults one day. You don't want to have your kid leave college, enter college, and then leave college not knowing how to make healthy food choices, to plan ahead, to do a budget, all that sort of stuff. And lastly, don't track numbers critically. What you don't want to have happen is this becomes an obsession and a young person starts being too meticulous about what they eat and counting every calorie and really worrying about, oh, if I ate this, like, feeling shame about it. You don't want to lead down this road, this path to disordered eating. What you do want to do is be positive. When they make healthy choices, praise them. When they make normal 14 or 16 or 17-year-old choices, like they have a soda or they have a second soda, and we both know they shouldn't have, don't be super critical about it. I would say praise the good choices and do your best to create a positive environment around this. Because again, lots of people in the fitness industry who are very healthy looking, who have ripped abs and are just look amazing without their shirt on, a lot of them have really tough problems with eating. And there's a lot of eating disorders that come out of people who are trying to have this perfect physique where nothing's ever good enough, their body's never good enough, and that's not the road that you want to start to go down. So it's important to say, hey, these are healthy choices. Let's try to make those. Let's do the best we can. Let's try to plan out. Let's pack the healthy food. And then from there, let the chips fall where they may, foster a positive environment, but don't get into this meticulous calorie counting, critical state of being, because that's not the right way for young people to think about food. Food is a really important part of the human condition. We all love to eat. We love tasty food. We don't love green beans and asparagus all the time, although I do love asparagus. Everyone's going to have different preferences. And so praise the times they make good decisions and just don't be too hard on a young person who's trying to figure out what healthy eating habits look like, maybe for the first time. So as we summarize here, the big thing is making a plan and sticking to it as a family. If your athlete has goals, those goals are going to come from their physical body and their mental body and their physical training, right? Those are the sort of big things. It's not enough just to go into the weight room and have a great workout. They need to eat the healthy food that's going to support muscle gain or fat loss or whatever it is that their goals are. And so this is just like anything else. You can't just wish for your body to get bigger and faster and stronger. As an athlete, you have to make a plan and stick to it. And that means packing food. That means making healthy choices of the things that you pack for your lunches and your snacks, and having a process for when I go grocery shopping, what am I buying? Okay, I'm buying a bunch of fruit for the week, my proteins for the week, my carb choices for the week, my vegetables for the week. And then what are the things that I'm going to grab and go? Bananas, apples, a couple bars, or I have some protein powder, whatever it is. What does that list look like? And when you can make that plan when a person is young and show them how it's done and lead by example as a parent as well, eating healthy yourself and sticking to it, those are going to lead to lifelong good habits. When I go to the grocery store, I try to buy, okay, what vegetables and fruits can I afford that are organic first? And if I can't afford all these organic ones, which ones are still necessities, even if they're not organic? What am I going to make this week? Fruits, vegetables, protein, carbs, and then the grab and go stuff. I follow all the same advice that I was following when I was a college kid figuring this out on my own, living off campus, cooking my own meals, trying to see how I could be the best baseball player that I could be through my workouts and through my eating habits. All right. So I hope today's video was helpful. Again, it's a lifelong journey, and the way sports blend in with real life is really important. So this is, I think, a really good one where you can make positive impact on your kids' future and their health now through athletics. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you here in the next video.